Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier, Mike's Instant Movie Review. Here we go. Dune 2. Okay, should you go see this movie? Should you go not? If you're watching me, you've probably already seen the movie and you're just looking for, confirmation of your own beliefs in the film, and that's fine. And I would say, yeah, it's a movie worth seeing. They put their money into this movie. It's an epic. And this is the type of movie that we're all supposed to go see, and we're all supposed to have an opinion on. So here's my opinion. And some disclaimers. First of all, the 2021 version of this movie, or the first one, not the version, but the original or whatever the fuck, I went to see it. I thought it was slow. This is the one from a few years ago, not the 2024 one. I thought it was slow, and I just left thinking, okay, this whole thing was just a setup for a sequel for a bunch of other movies. And so here we are, let the bunch of other movies begin. I didn't really recall a lot from the first one, so I had to go back and I went to good old-fashioned YouTube and I dug up, really for the first time, some of these like crib sheets, like recap of Dune 1 or whatever the fuck they're called. Just a couple of videos. It kind of felt like some of these videos were written by Chat AI or whatever the fuck. And just assholes giving me the summary and all this stuff about spice and fucking blue ooze and the eyes and all this crap. I was like, okay, this is why I don't remember the first movie very well, because it seems very contrived, okay? So now we go into this one, and, to my own fault, I go into the theater, I'm tired, I was supposed to do something else, the something else got canceled, so now I'm like, well, now I've got this evening. And of all the things I can do in the world, it feels like a moral obligation or an obligation to you, the people that give a fuck, the 5 people that care about my opinion on this thing, that I have to go see this movie. And I want to see it. I don't want a fear of being left out, folks. I'm going to watch the Super Bowl and I'm going to go to fucking see this movie, okay? So I go to this movie and, okay, here's a fun game. You ready? If you want to see movies these days, here's a fun game if you're getting bored. Count the amount of times any character in the film says this line to another character. Are you okay? Now, your whole life will be changed. Once you start doing this, when you start going to movies, start going to the films, and when they say the lines, are you okay, count. And see how long it takes. In this particular movie, Dune, which is supposed to take place in this other world or whatever the fuck, with basically the first scene, the Zendaya individual starts choking and she, don't spit up the goose or whatever the fuck. And then she's like, eh, and then fucking pretty boy Floyd here comes in. Are you okay? And then she like, and then he goes back to her. Are you okay? And then she even says, okay. And he says, are you? So it's like 2.5 are you okays. It's just funny because if you write screenplays like I do, you start digging through your script. It's such a creative crutch. It's like, okay, one character shows physical manifestation of some issue, whether it's mental sadness, emotional sadness, physical ailment, and another character, for clarification, says, are you okay? And then the first fucking character has to explain what the fuck is going on with them. Or the film explains it in some way. But if you look for this "are you okay" line in cinema, you'll see that it's very much there. The film Mission Impossible from maybe 2 summers ago, whatever, the 7th fucking sequel or whatever the fuck, that had like a record amount of "are you okays." Moving forth, I was starting to doze off a little bit. I would say this goddamn thing is 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's like a job seeing a movie like this. I started to doze off, but then I woke up. And finally, when this goddamn story started to like have some fucking meat to it, like things that I could understand, this vague fucking war of these assholes that I don't care about, yet we're all supposed to give a fuck. Ooh, this imaginary planet that doesn't exist, that we're all supposed to give a rat's ass about, from some sci-fi story written in 1965. Well, can I fill you in? I think it's a tragedy of sorts because from what I understand, having gathered knowledge, okay, Dune, I believe, was written in 1965 or thereabouts, and a decade later, our buddies over there basically borrowed many of the elements from the Dune story, the 6 novels apparently, to create Star Wars. So now, back then, in the 1970s, we didn't have our trusty internet. And but I believe even at the time, people were kind of like, hey, this Star Wars phenomena is somewhat similar to Dune, maybe a bit more action and a bit more Wild Westness in the Star Wars films, but a lot of people were kind of pointing out, hey, there's a lot of similarities here between this Star Wars movie, spectacular, and these Dune novels. However, the Dune novels weren't the first one to the cinema. So everyone got caught up, and we all know the story. 50 years later, Star Wars is a worldwide phenomenon, and Dune has kind of been sitting on the sidelines. Now, I believe that there's been other film interpretations. Wasn't Sting in one? Now they have Labyrinth being re-released. It's all these goddamn things. But I believe there was a Sting, if I'm not mistaken, was in a Dune that didn't do so well, apparently. But here we are in 2021, and now Dune's coming out. I went to go see Dune. I was like, oh, this is kind of like Star Wars. Like, there's some Star Wars type of elements. But really, it's the Dune elements that were stolen in the first place. So now it's kind of like a thing where, an asshole like me that kind of grew up on Star Wars, all these things of like the sand and the Imperial, and there's 2 sides, and all this horse shit. It just rings like kind of Star Warsy, but when you see these Dune movies, they're so dramatic and serious. You know what I mean? In other words, they're not really fun. I mean, it's well-made filmmaking, and you pay all the big money for all the top stars and blah, 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 and the great Hans Zimmer music and all this refined horse shit. But at the end of the day, are these movies fun? And the answer is really no. I mean, this is more like a very dramatic. There's not much levity, meaning i.e. humor. There's no cute little C-3PO. It's just all this boring horse shit. And then the fight scenes are really, for me, what carries it. And then we get into some drama stuff where it's like, okay, the guy that all the young women are coming to finger bang themselves over, Timothy Chalamet, or whatever the fuck, good actor. But basically, when his character is basically like being revealed to be this messianistic fighter of these people, the whatever the fucks, the Frenians or whatever the fuck their names are. It's like all the words are like close to English words. So it's like, was it like Freyon? So it sounds kind of like friend, am I wrong? Or something like that, but it's not. And then he like battles for these fucking people, and he really just wants to bang the Zendaya chick. I mean, that's the whole reason why he's there, which is obvious. And then he's got to fight like a giant fucking snake, and the sand snake or whatever the fuck, and that's how we get our blue serum. What the fuck? So then it's like, and then they go to battle, and then it's like, well, it is written. It is written. Oh, okay, it's written in some fictional fucking book. It's like this Dune's version of the Holy Bible. And we, as the fucking audience in the fucking theater, in our reality, are supposed to buy into this book that we don't have a copy of, that we don't read. These prophecies. Oh, it's a prophecy. Well, Christ, then it has to happen because it was foretold. Well, shit. In that case. So then this fucking asshole, now he's got all this goddamn power. He's embracing his power. He's going to avenge his fucking father. Was his father killed in the first one? Because I cannot fucking recall. And the goddamn first one was out in the theaters for a couple of days a few weeks ago. I did not go to see it because guess what, folks? I didn't like it really the first time. And I knew the first time I saw it, it was just a fucking reason to have this goddamn sequel. But yet here I am. So it's like, basically, I'm not arguing that they haven't made a great movie. Similar to the fucking Lord of the Rings fucks, I didn't give a half a shit about that stuff either, okay? So it's like, here's this big, epic fucking adventure land that we are all supposed to, like, adhere to and buy into. Like, oh, yes, this is a metaphor for our lives. This means something about something. This is Yugoslavia. This is whatever the fuck. No, I don't give a shit. So, but I will acknowledge that when he has the whole thing with Christopher Walken and I will kill you but then I will fuck your daughter. But then he's telling the other ones, Zendaya, I just need you, I want you to hear, I will love you until my dying breath. And you know all the fucking, you know, the young women in the audience are fucking making their auditorium seats damp with these things. And then he's basically saying, you have to pay the price for killing my father. But I'm going to marry and fuck your daughter and to bring peace to the world. What a statement. And then the guy's like, but you can either fight me, Christopher Walken, 80-year-old fucking man, or you can have your champion fight me. So now we get the fucking guy, I guess it's his fucking cousin, and the bald-headed guy, and I'm kind of cheering for him, because like his character's more interesting. So this is basically the Darth Maul guy, sort of, who comes in, and we've seen him. He's fought in the pit of death a few times, and he's got like the Jabba the Hutt-esque fat bald father that Chalamet already killed, who I guess is his grandfather. So I'm losing my, like, I'm totally forgetting what the fuck's going on. Then there's this other woman with tattoos on her fucking face, and now he's like gonna get the hand of the chick from Oppenheimer, and she was Paige in the whatever the fuck, in the wrestling movie, Wrestling with My Family, like this actress who's like a big star. So it's like all these big stars. It's like, oh, here's this big star, and there's that big star, and all these fucking people that are big stars now that I don't give half a fuck about, to be honest with you. So it's like, oh my goodness, all this stuff is so important, and it means so goddamn much, and it's so relevant. Okay, whatever the fuck. But when they finally like have this situation, I'm like, okay, here's some real storylines I can invest in, like, you know, and it's like, finally, this fucking movie comes together with all this, like, 5 hours, I'm counting the last fucking experience, like, all this horse shit, we finally have a human experience that I can relate to. For the good of the kingdom, I have to, you know, basically make peace, but the only way that I'm going to be at peace is if I avenge my father's death. And I'm going to kill this old fucking man. But because he's old, it's not a fair fight. So someone gets to fight in his stead. So that the bald-headed fuck comes in, and he's looking for fame and glory. And he's having his brother kiss his foot and all this stuff. And then it's like, he's calling poor Zendaya, is this your pet? Is this your pet? And then they're having this big fight. And somehow Chalamet gets stabbed a couple of times. But the great thing about, you know, fucking heroes in movies is they get stabbed, they get shot, somehow they just fucking live. Like everybody else in a fucking movie, if they get stabbed once or shot once or just a paper cut, they're fucking dead. But the heroes of the movie, they can get stabbed in the heart, they can get shot 5 times in the chest. I mean, they're basically Tupac in fucking 93 or whatever the fuck. They just live through goddamn everything. So, any fucking way. Then he, Pretty Boy Floyd here, kills Bald-Headed Geek. Then he goes over and he's like, I'm going to take Rose McGowan here, or whatever the fuck her name is, Paige Van Zant, and I'm going to fuck her, and Walken, I'm going to kill you. And then we somehow, in this fucking world with no cell phones, no smartphones, no internet, somehow we get word from the Five Council that they're not accepting his ascension. Okay, well, where the fuck did that come from? How did you get word from the like? This shit just happened. This fight just happened, and Chalamet is taking over the goddamn world. But the 5 heads of state, wherever the fuck they are, have somehow made their fucking accord. How did we even see that? I mean, where would they have like some hieroglyphic form of communication that we don't know about? Because I didn't see any fucking board meeting with Samuel Jackson and Jar Jar Binks and all these other assholes deciding that Pretty Boy Chalamet can't rule the fucking world with you know, Paige Van Zant as his fucking girlfriend, as his wife, and then the pet, and all this other shit, and you throw Spider-Man in there with the fucking punk rock Spider-Man. It all makes a hill of nonsense. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I think I'd rather just watch, you know, 90 Day Fiancé or some goddamn murder mystery fucking show, or the Delphi murders, or something with reality. Because this fictional sci-fi bullshit is just, the problem is, like I said, all the best parts of this fucking movie were more or less done by Star Wars 40 fucking years ago, and now Dune has to have the scraps of its own meal, basically.